This sound was recorded on August the 11th, 1962, medium Leslie Flint.
Really, we discussed differently on this reincarnation and the spark of life that is within returns again and again, and it's the same spark, it's the same whole. And within us there is the subconscious, which must influence us in some way. How do you find that?
Well, one must remember that whatever body we inhabit at any given time, whatever age it may be, it is still the same spirit that animates it, that is its life, that gives it life. Of course, each brain in each body can only assimilate or accommodate so much. And the brain is a limiting factor, unfortunately, and that is why so many people cannot recapture or remember many things appertaining to previous existences. It is true there are some who are fortunate, but we must remember that the brain in itself is a wonderful instrument and highly, in a sense, technical and most highly sensitive. A great deal depends on circumstances, often beyond the control of the brain of the particular individual. But the point is that much can yet be recaptured. The brain can retain memories that are built up over a lifetime, but it cannot retain memories of which it had no previous knowledge. In other words, what I'm trying to say is that a physical brain, a physical body, in a certain incarnation, is only responsible for that particular part of time. But the spirit, which is the animating force behind all life, has its consciousness of previous existences and previous lives, and with some effort can, to some extent, push through, if I can put it this way, certain faint remembrances of past existences. The only way that the brain is likely to recapture memories of past lives is by communication in a psychic and spiritual sense, not only with its own spirit or its own vitalizing force, but through the agency of other souls who are able from this side to transmit messages or transmit impressions. You see, every individual has the opportunity to develop, to expand, to grow, to become more wise, more spiritually wise. But the limiting factor is always the material, which I don't think humanity realizes the great possibilities within oneself. When we talk about the limitation of the brain, I'm talking about its limitation purely on a material basis. But it doesn't mean to say that if humanity developed and progressed more on spiritual lines, in other words, if there was more harmony between the material and the spiritual, in other words, if there were balance, then the brain would change. The physical brain would undergo physical changes, as indeed would the physical body, and so would life generally. In fact, the whole of existence, material existence, could be changed when man himself changes from within himself and becomes more conscious of the animating force or spirit which is around and about him, which in itself would then have greater play. In other words, there would be more balance and there would be more weight thrown upon the spiritual aspect of himself and life generally, that then you would be able to recapture far more, not only of past existences, but you'd also be able to bring forth and bring through in the material world many things of a spiritual nature yet to come. You see, life is not just one decade, it is not just one existence. The physical bodies that you inhabit are but shells which reflect to some extent some part of spiritual life, but they are limiting because man himself through generations of time, becomes, unfortunately, often more materialistic than ever. He becomes spiritual. All these limiting factors, that is why life in your world goes on the same level, why very few people develop in truly a spiritual manner. It until man learns that he is as much a spiritual being as a material being, they cannot hope to be any of the progress that we would hope for. That is why we from this side are constantly pushing through all that we possibly can to make you conscious of your own responsibilities, and also to make you conscious of the fact that you are spiritual beings. You see, when you sit in a circle, if you will realize that you are not just physical bodies sitting there, but also you are spiritual bodies, you are spiritual forces which entwined and gathered together can create such a condition and an atmosphere that you might say anything could be possible. As when Christ or any of the great philosophers or teachers tried to explain to their disciples and their friends about these things, it was always insisted that it was the power from within. It was that tremendous force of life, that vitality, that real animating part of oneself, that dominating part, which should be the real dominating part of every human individual, that can overcome the barriers and the boundaries and the complications of material things. You talk about the brain, we talk about the brain from the point of view that it is a machine which merely reacts to vibrations. After all life is vibration. The brain is a vibratory instrument, delicately balanced, but unfortunately man has not yet learned how to use that in a spiritual sense. When he does, then indeed there will be tremendous progress in the world, and there will be great changes. Man keeps himself on such a base, low level, and tunes in mentally by brain to material things, but that brain can respond to higher spiritual knowledge and truth and vibration, but only when man himself develops his brain, in other words, changes his brains, makes his brain capable of receiving, as the brain is capable of receiving. As you know, it is proven to you, in certain respects at least, that the brain does receive tremendous inspiration, does receive all sorts of messages, even at long distances. It is possible for a person in your world to be conscious of what is happening to another person miles away. These things are proven facts. Man does not yet know the capacity and the power of his brain, but it is because of this that he has kept it on the material level, and it is because of this that man continues to grow in a material sense, but not to grow in a spiritual one. You must learn that the spiritual counterpart of the brain is capable of utilizing the physical brain to transmit and to use it in such a way that it could change the whole attitude and way and manner and thought of mankind. It is this part of you, this spiritual part, this counterpart of the physical, which is highly placed in a spiritual sense, the dominating factor, the vitality, the force, the life, everything that is man, that it continues beyond so-called death, that is man. The body is but the shell, but the shell can be used in such a way that it can become so animated by spirit and power and love and all that is good, that it could change, as I've said, the whole face of mankind. We could divert man into the channels of peace. We could divert him in such a way that he would become truly spiritually a representative of the Most High. We are influencing you, all the time influencing you, but when we can make you overcome the limits which you, and not only you as people, but the whole of humanity has placed upon itself, then we should begin to make progress. What does true spiritual progress mean? It means that you've overcome the flesh. In other words, you have realized that the possibilities of the flesh are much greater, not just materially, for material use, but it is possible to use the body. It is possible to use the physical brain of the body for highly spiritualized work. In other words, you can do what Christ and other great souls did, perform so-called miracles. And a miracle is only when something that you do not understand. When you understand how it is brought into being and how it is achieved, it is then not a miracle, it is an accepted fact. Nature has given you great opportunities, and you do many things through and by nature. But when you realize there is a spiritual nature, a spiritual force, all around and about you and within you, and when you draw upon that, and you overcome the material conception of things, when you overcome yourselves, in other words, then you will see the workings of the Spirit. Then you will see the outpouring of the Spirit. And then you will see what can be achieved by this very power. These are the things we're trying to do for you, and through you, and with you. And within yourselves lies the power. For you are truly spiritual beings while you're upon earth. The physical body is the vehicle of his expression. Let us use that vehicle of expression, and let us truly be one in spirit and in truth. And you will see then how truly we shall bring about these things we have promised. Don't worry. Just be patient. You have to hurry because the power is going.
I'll take you a couple of moments.
Oh,
We're going like completely off eating meat. Is that any...
You are doing what?
We're going completely off eating meat. It's appalling us for some reason or other.
Well, I don't suppose you will...
We won't pass out with it, I know.
No, but I'm not so concerned as to whether you eat meat or whether you don't eat meat. But I am very concerned about other things. Those things are obvious. But I think you are doing very well, much better perhaps than you think. I give you a pat on the head, each one. But soon I hope to hit you on the back, a downed heart.
Yes, dear.
And then you will be pushed right into what I want you to go into. But we are content to go slowly. I pat you on the head like the children, the bambino, good little boy. But actually you're doing much better than you think, and you will see. Wait! I have up my sleeve, like a conjurer, many rabbits for you. Don't worry, we're going to have happy times and wonderful times. Just keep up this spirit and don't flag. I have to go.
Yes.
Well, I hope you enjoy everything. And a little surprise for you very soon again. A very nice one this time. And a bigger one than you think possible. Goodbye. And God bless you. And don't worry. Think of the present, but make sure the future is good.
Yes. All right.
Thank you for
Thank you for
everything.
everything.
Bye-bye, you
Bye-bye,
lot.
Mickey.